share. Let me share.
I'll let everyone know. I'm cutting you off because I know you're going to say something good. All right, we are live.
Yes, I see, Albert. That means this is a new podcast.
It's a new podcast.
Share time.
Oh, I don't want to share in a group. What the hell?
Let's do this.
Yes, I see.
Yep, there we go. Whoops.
Sure, just share it directly on my timeline. Didn't say shit!
Share now.
Hello!
Alright.
I am
Hi,
shared.
Matt! Hi, Sam!
Hello, everyone. Alright.
How do I...
Is everyone feeling good? Do the social media blasts that we all care about so deeply?
See.
See? See.
See.
Alright, we'll kick it off.
Sees candies.
Drinks up?
Shit's pretty fucked over here. Here, we're gonna do a quick cheers. There you go. Yep, there you go. There you go. Get that smoothie in, Albert.
It's G Fuel. G
Fuel in
Fuel.
ya.
G Fuel.
Anyways, we took the last week off because of the I wouldn't say threat, but the rise of revolution on how to defeat systemic racism in America as a whole, if not globally.
Oof.
So we felt like it was appropriate for us to go out there and voice our honest opinions on how fucked the system is. And let me tell you, some people out there are bleeding real tough. People are getting really edgy. People are getting increasingly violent and crazy. And we felt like it was a need that we needed to have those people be heard first. And even our own people on the podcast were out there voicing their opinions. I'm a coward. I'm not going out there and getting hit with a billy club. My face is too good to get blasted, but
Too pretty.
we have other people out there who are way more braver than I should say.
People wouldn't notice if I got hit by a club.
Unfortunately, you are too dark for that range to be swept under the rug. But anyways, so in light of us taking the week off, I think it was about time for our two hosts above me, Loudnbrown and Goon, to really give us a perspective of what it was like to be on the first wave of the Seattle protests up in downtown Seattle, which can be seen as like almost a reflection of everywhere else at this point, because everyone's going crazy in all these streets at various different levels and paces. So I'm gonna give who wants to go first between the two up there?
I'll go
right.
first.
Well,
So yeah, hey, Loudnbrown, at Loudnbrown here. By the way, you're listening to SaltTier podcast, phoning it in.
there you go.
This is episode 14, where Soundcasting Network's very own video game podcast, where your argument is invalid, especially if y'all ain't out there. So big movements and everything happened. What was it? Maybe last week Wednesday is when the protest really started. Like last week Wednesday, and then people started slowly coming out. And the first big 2 days were the Saturday and Sunday. And then I got to one of the first organized rallies last week Monday, actually, which is why we didn't do the podcast. I'm like, no, I'm going to go to Cal Anderson. There's people out there. There's people doing speeches. And it's as terrible as it is that we have to do this. It is really cool to see everybody getting together against what is clearly a terrible thing that happened, and it continues to happen through systemic problems. And aside from that, I've been to marches all through the week. I went to a nighttime patrol of some other neighborhoods that maybe aren't protected against looting and vandalism as other. I went to the International District that we have here in Seattle. And that was more of like a community outreach kind of a thing. But, there's so many ways that people can help. A lot of people, there's a lot of shaming going around up there, which is, this weird new feel of cyberbullying, kind of. Like, get out there, we all are, and you have to also. But, that's not in everybody's mental space. It really isn't. Some people aren't physically capable or emotionally capable. But there's so many things you could do to help out financially, or even, on the ground, especially times. This thing is like a 24-hour period now. I had somebody reach out to me, one of my gamer friends, James, and I was like, hey, man, you do not have to be up there. Rubber bullets and tear gas that's a scary thing. But you can show up early. You could literally just drop off like a dozen donuts, or you can go to these little kiosks. They're making these little pop-up tents, and you can ask how you can help. People are taking masks as donations, blankets. And the easiest thing, because a lot of people that are into gaming and comics and geek culture are artistic, is they literally need people with paper and markers and people to make signs, because not all of the craft stores and malls are open right now. People are just finding old pizza boxes and Sharpie pens. And that matters too. Like so much you could help. And yesterday seemed like such a good day. And then we'll talk about what happened later in the evening. But that's what I've been involved in. And we'll talk about what I've seen from the gaming world, but that's what I've experienced here in Seattle. And I'm kicking it over to Goon.
Well, the first time that I actually went to a protest was on Fifth Avenue. It was like the first initial protest happened last Saturday, I think. And I initially wasn't going to go, but I heard some stuff was going on, so I decided to take off that day. It was probably one of the more intense protests I've been to. I walked up and got to Fifth, and they had a picket line already of military, National Guard, and cops, and they were just holding really big, thick, like wooden batons. And they let me cross the picket line, so that was really cool to see. They didn't give me any like shit. They just let me go through, and so I got through and got to the center where there were protesters having speeches, and a lot of people were there, and I managed to take some photos while I was there too.
That's an understatement. You took some crazy. To say that you were there is an understatement. You know how like those big scenes in Woodstock, and somebody's grandparents like, I was there, and they were like a mile back. No, like I saw Goon's pictures. You could catch him on, what's your Twitter?
GoonPNW.
You could look at them at GoonPNW on Twitter, and you could see it's in the shit. In it, like feet away from stuff. But continue.
The weird and kind of unsettling thing about the first protest that I went to is I stood around for maybe about an hour listening to some speeches, and one of the protesters was telling people that they should go home now, and that but they'll resume it tomorrow at 3 p.m., which was the next day. I can't say this tomorrow. So people were trying to leave, and I tried to go back to the picket line that I came through, and the National Guard and cops sealed it off. They wouldn't let anyone go past it. So that's where I took one of the pictures of just like a ton of National Guard people standing in a line, and they told us to go around. There's another way you can go around through around the block and go that way and exit. So a lot of people wanted to stay and argue with the National Guard, and I was like, I'm not going to take any chances. I'll go where they'll tell me to go. So I went that way, and as I was leaving, the exit that I went through, they closed that exit off too. Like a bunch of cops and like National Guard just kind of like moved into that spot and like sealed off that exit. And then I managed to make my way around back to the other side of where I came from, and that was completely sealed. They wouldn't let anyone in or out, and it almost felt like they were boxing people in.
Kettling.
Yeah, and it got really, really heated. Like people were getting really antsy. And cops then started coming to the other side where I was at, and they started making a line too. And now people are arguing with the police, and people are telling us to stop, to keep recording, because if we don't record, then they feel like they're going to take advantage of us. So a lot of people kept on recording, and I kind of stood around and waited and watched for another 30, 40 minutes or so. And then I realized that a bunch of cops actually started going around the corner, and it was really weird because I was like, where are they going? And then one guy behind me was like, they're gonna flank us. So I backed up a little bit with a ton of other people, and as we were backing up to the other side of the block, Lord, or like, would you know it, they actually started coming around the side and trying to come and box us out on that side too. But a lot of us made it out, and then the last thing I remember is somebody, I was streaming it live, like somebody in my live feed like screamed, and then I saw someone trip, and then people just started running, so I ran with them. That's about as close as I got to the action that happened on that day. It was wild. Like the cops were pretty, I don't know the word to look for, but they weren't taking any of our shit.
Aggressive? Is it aggressive or just?
They were being aggressive, but they weren't being like. They weren't being brutal. They weren't being brutal. They were just like pushing us out and pushing us out. So that
no nonsense.
No nonsense kind of stuff. I don't know what happened. Like all I know is I saw someone get shoved, but I don't know who did the shoving. So a lot of people are saying it was cops. A lot of people are saying it was somebody else. So I can't attest to that. The Cal Anderson Park that I went to, the protest like a few days later, was way more peaceful. No violence actually happened there. Things were pretty good. There was a lot of diverse faces out there. Like there was a monk, like a Buddhist monk, was just chilling out in the crowd. I took a picture of him, and then I managed to. I did a little illegal. Sorry. Thanks. Shout out to Bobby Stills for being out there and helping me out. He boosted me up to the ladder to get up higher. I took one of the Rhino Room's ladders that goes up the roof, and I got up a little bit and took some pictures there. And it was wild. I think like 3,000 or 4,000 people were out there that day that I went.
Was that one of the days where we had no tear gas actually used? Was
like literally nothing. It was non-violent, and it lasted all the way until like the morning of the next day. And it for once, like nothing happened. So I was.
I think that might have been Tuesday night.
No, Thursday.
No, it was Thursday. Yeah, Sage is right.
Thursday. Okay, word.
And
start with a T.
I was gonna go. I was gonna go on Saturday, and then some personal stuff came up. But then I heard Saturday was a shit show. So
it didn't start off as a shit show. It was fine, but actually, so everybody's tuning in. We're based out of Seattle, and there is an on the floor. Oh, also big ups to Bobby Stills for being boots on the ground. He's been there like almost every day.
Bobby Stills has been.
He's the one that cheered us on to spread the word out on how people are helping and how people are spreading the word for tonight. That's why we're doing it, and he talked us into it. But he's been in direct contact with Amari Salisbury, who is like the dude at the front. And when I say at the front, like sometimes
he is a journalist, so
he's a journalist, and he's sometimes like in direct contact with police and Congress people, and just talking to all sorts of people at the front line. And his stream, like he's freaking.
The stream. He's going on for at least 12 hours minimum.
And he's literally in the front line, like in the very front with the barricade is with the cops.
And he's been tear gassed like 3 times this week. Jesus, man.
He's our tank.
He is absolutely the tank.
The greatest thing about him too is like he'll get tear gassed and be like, "Why'd you do that?" And like literally get into the face of the cops. And I'm like, this man is a fucking god.
So on Saturday, I was at the youth organized Black Lives Matter march in the north side, because there's a little less activity in North Seattle because it's a little less melanated, and they were just trying to get the word out there. And that was actually a beautiful, peaceful protest. But right around the time it started, the leadership there got on a bullhorn to like, hey, I don't want to startle anybody, but if y'all have any friends and family up in Capitol Hill, the things are already going gnarly over there. And if you want to go over there and help, I understand you leaving this. And according to, I can't remember if this is Saturday or Friday night, but according to Omari's stream, it was a peaceful protest and people started getting a little rowdy. And Omari's tongue was like, don't go past the barricade. That's what the barricade is for. And then just people like they got all this fight in them and they want to like start shit. And like the many days ago when someone threw a water bottle past the barricade, like that didn't need to happen. Or they saw people throwing bricks. Like, it's just like all the instigators, all the people that are obviously not part of the movement are making it harder for people that are trying to peacefully protest.
Do you think with the COVID-19 quarantine, things have been amplified even harder than a normal protest would be?
Yes, 100%. So many. I wouldn't be at half of these. Half of the things I've been to, I would have been at work. More than half. 75% of the things I've gone to, I would have had a shift. And I would have been able to, like, swing by, but I wouldn't be able to be there for hours and hours.
Like, how long are you guys out there for?
On Saturday, over in Magnuson Park, I got there at maybe about 2, and I didn't get home until almost 7.
So in the comments, talking to Devin Wheeler here, shout out to Devin for tuning in. Thanks for listening to us. But he says that the tear gas, when he's in the military, they get tear gassed as per protocol to build immunity, and they do it for 30 minutes.
Woo.
So that's a standard that they do, a military standard.
That is rough.
My mom, who used to be a King County sheriff, they would do pepper spray immunity. So you would have to take a pepper spray to, like, build that up. And that shit is not fun.
Trev backing you up as his partner not in crime. I guess, yeah, in crime, whatever. He's saying he could
corporate goons. Let's keep it.
Yeah, he's saying he could be there for hours too if he had you by his side.
Yeah, I mean,
strength in numbers.
Good.
Is that O'Day?
No, he's he's a corporate goon like I am.
Oh, okay.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
Yeah. So at this point, with the kind of chaos that has been out there, like, what have people been trying to do to, like, quell the violence out there when people are getting, like, too rowdy? Like, what are like the things the majority of the peaceful protesters have been, like, trying to do to isolate those bad actors, as some people would call them, or just wild cards, to better put it as?
Well, they try to nip it in the bud as soon as they see it. I know, like, a good chunk of the protesters don't want anything violent to happen. So you can't help the intentions of some people that aren't actually there for the protests, and they're actually there to try to be edgy and do some anarchy bullshit. So that's really, I wouldn't say it's an excuse, but to me that's a reasoning what I feel like they would do. Because I personally don't view myself as a protester. I kind of came there to really just document things and show friends and family. Granted, like, I'm for the cause, but I wasn't there to protest per se, if you catch my drift.
Right.
Sure.
Like, you're doing the job of being a documenter, which, like,
yeah,
a part of my video background I kind of want to do, but I also don't want to get fucked up horribly.
Yeah, I heard from people that it's just as dangerous doing documenting, because, police especially don't want to be documented for the heinous shit that they do, and if they see you documenting it, they're going to come after you. I mean, it's been happening right now. If you guys have been seeing through the news, like, police are just coming to revenge arrest people for documenting them doing shit. Like that guy that documented the girl getting maced, the cops came for his ass. So yesterday my roommate came up to me and he was like, so what's your contingency plan if they pull up to our house and want to detain you and take you to prison? And I'm like, well, there really isn't anything that I can do. All I can really do is be like, I'm not going to tell you shit until I see a lawyer. Like, but that's really all I got. So
word. That's another thing. I got to learn my rights. I know that there are a bunch of our other super producer, Keith the Boogie, put out some information. One of his friends is a lawyer, offering their services for free for protesters that are wrongfully detained or arrested during this. And I hear, and this is another thing, all of these people together are showing so much love and so much unity of everybody that's down for the cause. There's people working pro bono. There are literally organizations telling people to stop donating because they're at the point where, like, dude, we don't even have anywhere near the amount of people that are being arrested for this, like, bail fund. Like,
Yo, the bail fund though is a godsend. Like that
It's amazing.
whoever organized that, because if you guys are from Seattle, I assume that most people watching us are from Seattle, and if you guys seen any protests, I feel like you're bound to at least see what everyone's been calling the trumpet guy. Have you guys been seeing the trumpet guy?
Oh, you mean
Trumpet
our
guy got taken down real tough.
Yeah. So
you mean our riot bard?
Yeah, I met the trumpet guy my first time at Fifth Avenue. He was doing trumpet shit, and then a couple of days later, he got arrested for just playing the trumpet. And then I met him again at Cal Anderson Park towards the end of the day, and he was playing the trumpet with like this band. And he said through the grapevine that he was arrested for pedestrian. It was like pedestrian, like it was something about pedestrian obstruction. That's what it was called.
Oh, word.
And his bail was $1,500, and the bail fund paid for him to get out.
That's dope.
Just like that.
It sucks that money even had to go anywhere. That said, over the past couple days, Jenny has put out random curfews throughout the week. Okay, maniacs that are listening in, we're talking about. Oh my God! I think it was the day that Goon was out there at like 4:45 on Saturday. She put out a 5 o'clock curfew for thousands of people to leave the downtown area, organized in 15 minutes. It's like impossible, literally impossible. And so it gave probable cause for anybody to be taken away. It's like, well, you're past curfew and there's no reason for you to be here. And she has recently stopped doing that due to public outcry. But when the riot bard got taken away, he was past curfew, and that could have been another excuse they took him. Because curfews are still going on. It's a bunch of baloney.
Yeah, like the curfew violation, like the bail for most curfew violations, from what I understand, was like $500 to get out.
Oof. Like I said, it's good seeing everybody coming out. For example, oh my God, especially on Wednesday, which was in a big coming out party for Asians for Black Lives, I saw so many signs that were like Vietnamese for Black Lives, Koreans for Black Lives, Filipinx for Black Lives. They're all out there. And their leadership was hilarious, because Nikita Oliver and a lot of the Black Lives Matter Seattle movement are on like borderline political speech. Like they're very clear of their intentions, what they want from these and who they're talking to. And Asians for Black Lives comes out and there's F-bombs and shouting, and they were not censoring themselves at all. They were wild, and bless them. They were freaking sweet. There's a lot of support out there.
A lot of love.
Yeah. And I don't want to dive in too much about like these events. We will put links in the chat and on our page on what streams to follow, how you can organize reliable news sources. And as soon as Bobby Stills goes live, I don't know why we haven't been doing this. We should share that on the SaltTier platform. But this is a gaming podcast, and I do want to talk about this before we get too carried away on how gamers are getting involved. And very notably, Goon brought this up to me last week, Sunday, which types of gamers and individual esports organizations and people are being completely silent on this, and how people are taking that. And I want to let Sagebell and VonShady talk a little bit. How have you heard about the video game industry being involved at all? Like, for example, what Sony did. Like,
I mean, for the most part, it's just people like bowing out for the week and not trying to like promote anything. Basically, anywhere from EA to Ubisoft. I'm just throwing general terms out there. Even Amazon like did a bow of silence. Essentially, it's all bows of silence just to allow the actual protests going on around here to actually take precedence on media. Because right now, the truest form of news you're getting or you're going to get is friends who are out in the street, Twitter, and then maybe a very neutral, objective news source. The biggest pet peeve for me that I get really annoyed with, and I've called out both sides of the fence, is posting videos that don't show the entire context of what's going on.
It's
I
very
need-
propaganda.
Totally.
Very propaganda based.
Yeah, like
you gotta get the whole picture. You got to.
I had to call out people on both sides of this political spectrum. Like, hey, you gotta like be a little bit fair about this. Like, you can spin any 30-second news bit into whatever you want, unless the story's being able to be compacted in 30 minutes from front to beginning. I've seen too many people just pull up random 5, 15, 30-second clips, being like, guess what the cops are doing? They're putting shit in the cars. And I'm like, okay, this is a silent footage that anyone could doctor audio footage into. That's easy. So that's just a propaganda tactic that the left is going to do to garner any sort of sympathy and just cause for, pro-life, Black Lives Matter, which is, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just not painting a fair picture.
You got to put the truth out there, because when it gets
you have to be a
exposed,
seeker of truth.
Because when you put bullshit out there and then the full video gets released, you take the jam out of the donut and it completely
Then it's
brings
fine.
all your legitimacy out the window, and you're doing more harm than good. It's giving people reasons to not believe you.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to sound like a centrist, but like both sides definitely have been doing that bullshit for some time now. If like a really good example, before I take it back to you, sorry. A really good example is when Joe Biden said he wants cops to start shooting people in the leg, and I'm like, yo, get this shit. Republicans want to kill you, but Democrats just want to shoot you in the leg. That's really all they want to do. Like,
that's the choice we got.
Yeah, that's the choice you get.
Yeah, so pick your poison, right?
I guess I'm Biden, sadly, but
I don't want to die. I guess I'll take being shot in the leg. I guess fucking
You can literally walk it off. Just walk it off. You're good. But
for example, it's people what's the word I'm looking for? Fantastinating?
No, what do they call that? Not fanatical.
Centralizing these headlines, right? For example, sensationalizing things. Thank you, O'Day. That's a good education right there.
It only took me 2 minutes to figure out that word.
For example, it doesn't help anybody to be like, Proud Boy rams into protesters, and then gets taken into police custody. And you watch the video, and he doesn't hit anybody, and it's misleading, and it makes you want to dismiss the whole video. Obviously, there was an intent to harm, but don't say anything that didn't happen, because then it dismisses it all out there.
It makes your cause look bad.
Makes the cause look bad. Just say, especially when there's video and audio that can clearly see what's happening. Like, for example, when the cops say that there were just candles out there in the protest, and
they're bombs, bro. They're fucking bombs, bro.
It's
rocks
ridiculous.
And explosives, and they were just fucking candles.
This shit might have worked in the 90s, but there's documentation. You can't contain it. We got Anon in the house getting the word out there and spreading, and you can't contain that much. Like, the word is going to get out. Just stick to your guns, and it's going to help the message being taken out more if you're truthful about it.
Be a real truth seeker. Don't try to spin a story just because you have an agenda. Like, you literally look weak if you're just only presenting one side of a story and being heavily skewed towards it. And I'm trying to make sure that people who want to be just in a cause actually present credible facts instead of sensationalizing things to further an agenda, because when you do it on either side, you're not as good as the other side. So, cut that shit out. Like, seriously.
Be better. Rise above.
Be better. But anyways, we kind of hit our 8:30 halfway mark, so I think
so
the break.
Oh yeah. Who wants to talk about the suds? Who wants to talk about the bubs? Who wants to talk about that burr?
Anyways, no one caught that, so I'm just going to take us to the break. You are listening to the SaltTier podcast, aka Phoning It In, because we're still stuck in, I think, quarantine. I don't know where we are right now with our lives.
Hey, we're hitting phase 1.5 soon. I think we are. Phase 1.5.
You're 1.5.
Yeah.
I'm in 2.
Are you in 2? You have to go back?
Fuck off.
Oh, yeah, because you're not in Seattle proper, that's why.
Yeah, I'm in...
Are you rocking Woodford Reserve, my boy?
I had a consultation meeting about live stream technologies, and this was my gift.
Swagging out.
I'm enjoying the spoils of my hard work. But I will say, you're listening to the SaltTier podcast, aka Phoning It In, where we're kind of stuck in this weird 1.5 limbo. But we're brought to you in part by the Soundcasting Network, which is graciously ran by our two fearless leaders. I will get there soon. You wait. We're graciously brought to you by Bobby Stills and Keith the Bookie, who are literally being like the people on the street getting shit done, getting gear, putting out the word, being eyes for everyone. They're really doing a lot of God's work. Not as, I wouldn't say as much as Amari, but Amari is like out there being a G.
Well, he's a legit journalist, so of course he's gonna be out there.
He's out there doing God's work, but we're not gonna devalue Keith the Bookie and Bobby Still's hard work. So we are very gracious and very honored to be a part of the Soundcasting Network, which is full of diversity, not just within our own podcast as video game players and people and connoisseurs, but we do have other podcasts such as Derek, hit him with the podcast.
Oh, How to Be a Better Drinker. And we got the Glow Up. And those are the two I mainly think. Oh, and the Reese Show. The Reese Show. And hopefully, Grill How Long Steak Mister, 5 minutes out, is going to come back as soon as Bobby gets his situation tied down and he gets a reliable co-host. But like the ones I was just talking about drinking and bar culture, chefs and food culture, parties and hip hop and clubs, and just Soundcasting Network is thick with podcasts. They got a lot of people out there doing a lot of good stuff
from all different backgrounds. It's not just your generic mom and pop, middle class, 30-year-old white people. It's everyone's included. Everyone. Don't worry about it, Sage. You don't count with them.
Here,
I only just turned 30.
You don't count with those people. And then I know I see that poster in the background. We also want to shout out to our sponsors. Surprisingly, we have sponsors. I honestly don't know how, but we want to say a big shout out to Voodoo Ranger, a great Pacific Northwest brewery who supply us with Voodoo Ranger IPA under the New Belgium brewery. I guess syndication, or what do you call that? Distribution. Umbrella. They're basically as close as to being a local brewer with all the good stuff and none of the corporate greed behind it, except, they got to make some money somehow. But regardless, they're employee-owned, they're B Corp certified, they do all the good stuff that really give back to the people and their employees. All that really cute, homegrown business technology. But I will say, #live dangerously. Thank you, Lauren, for hooking us up. Every once in a while, they'll check up on us and see how we're doing, and then they'll feed us beer. And that's all I could really ask for. So, cool. Thank you for the kind sponsorship. And then let's talk to the people who put on bonus round, which one of them is up here in this corner of the booth. Yeah. It's our monthly fighting game tournament that we hold out of Trinity Nightclub, and so we have to give props to them for hosting a bunch of, hardcore video game fighter gamers. And
Voodoo Ranger also hosts too. They sponsor that shit.
So
Craving Amazing.
And Crave Amazing, who run the production aspect of the thing, and then Goon's boy Seraph, who runs Surf. Anyways, Serpent. He runs the live stream aspect of that. He does a way better job than I could do. So, shout out for him for carrying that torch. One day we'll have a tournament again in person, but for right now, Goon has been trying to organize online tournaments and really getting the ball rolling. So one day we'll all be under one roof drinking something, and then I'm going to throw up in the back alley.
Hopefully soon.
So, anyways, that's our break. Find us anywhere on Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and then the Soundcasting Network. Oh, it's Spotify. There you go. There's 6 things. Anyways, we're on a bunch of shit. We're live on Mondays, usually at 8 p.m., and then we have a YouTube channel that Loud and Brown kind of distributes over all of our VODs. So,
well, I just yell at London for angrily through you're like that generation. I'll text her to put the videos up, and then she'll Instagram message me back, and then I'll Instagram message her that not all of them will put up, and then I'll get a tweet back. It's like how does that generation conduct conversations? I don't understand. London, we love you, but you're nuts.
I mean, it sounds like I'm dating. Like that person is like they're the same age as my partner that I'm dating, and I'm 7 years older than them. That's fucking crazy.
But
Anyways.
if you go onto YouTube, we got content on there, and she put up a bunch of great thumbnails. And because this is a weird thing that people don't think about with YouTube, but thumbnails mean a lot with the video content you put out there. So you can catch up on what we've been up to. Almost all of the Phoning It In episodes are on there, and this one will be there very soon. But let's move on with it and talk about gamers through this movement and revolution and how they are helping or being silent. And once again, I want to get AV and Sage involved in what they've experienced and witnessed this past 2 weeks.
I mean, it's a lot of just charity online gaming events just kicking off. Like, Sage, have you seen anything that has stricken your fancy in terms of gamers supporting the people?
Not really.
Oh no!
Oh no! Someone's living in ignorance.
No.
Well, I thought, like, one thing to backtrack before video games, I thought, like, a company that did a really, like, unique job was Nickelodeon. During Nick Jr., they did the 8 minutes of silence and the screen was black. And that's their kid hour, like their kid time frame. So it's in the morning.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's really important.
And it's just I can't breathe and breathing. Like, just I can't breathe is flashing on the screen for the whole 8 minutes.
Like, network to just throw out there.
Yeah, I was just like, fuck yeah. And then Ben and Jerry's has been, like, protesting and getting fucking arrested.
Well, the arrests were from a couple years ago. That was from the other protest.
I bet they get arrested again.
They would.
But white middle-aged mothers that had their kids watching Nick Jr. were very outraged. I don't know if you've been reading the shit that they've been saying.
Not happy.
Not okay.
My child shouldn't be exposed to this. Like, he doesn't know anything. I'm like, well, then inform your fucking child.
How about actually teach your child about the world for like 5 minutes?
And then you got the counter moms are like, if that was the only thing my child had to cry about, that would be great.
Yeah.
You know what the weird thing is? And maybe AV can speak about this to me. I asked my dad, who's from Compton, LA, he was a tween in the 60s, right? Mm-hmm. He wasn't like an infant, but he wasn't, into high school yet. And he could see stuff on the news sometimes. And I asked him, I was like, how was it with you watching like the civil rights movement? And he said his dad sheltered him from it and tried to keep him out of it. All he kept telling my dad is like, stay in school, stick with the arts, respect the police and like, don't cause an uproar. Like, it's a very Japanese saying, don't be the nail that sticks up or you'll get hammered down. And that's the way my grandfather talked to my dad and his brother because he feared for his family. So it's kind of strange, people like it's not just middle class whites that get the blinders put on. It's like it's black people in the 60s too, and not everybody was out there fighting. My family is mostly military, and that was my grandfather's way to kind of shelter it. And so, even when the LA riots happened, I remember asking my parents about what was going on, and they were just like, Los Angeles is a crazy city, and, there's a lot of hateful people out there. But, growing up in Hawaii is so weird. Like, that kind of stuff doesn't happen there.
Yeah.
But it's the way messages get through to different types of people is all across the map. It's not white and black. It is so much gray area to what people can be exposed to and how people can help or how people can choose to not be a part of it at all.
I think the biggest thing with that kind of mentality of how your dad was being taught to like put the blinders up is literally it's just protection. It's not to keep him ignorant for being ignorant's sake. It's we don't want you to go out there. How old was your dad? My dad is 70. He's old.
So he was in the shit when that was going on. Did you ever talk to him about that?
Not recently. But he's talked to me about his brothers and sisters getting racial discrimination back in like the 40s and 50s. Oof. And that shit is fucking terrible.
It sounds awful.
It's and that was like free to do. So, a lot of the racism that they experienced was up here in the Pacific Northwest. I wouldn't say few and far between, but it wasn't exactly polarized and publicized as much from the stories I've heard. But it's always those like high school stories of being called the N-word and being called this and that and derogatory when they're excelling in something that the majority of the other non-minority classmates just were kind of dunked on during those times. And then even not even just at the classmate level, even at like student to teacher level, I had my cousin Lamont being told like, oh no, Stanford won't take black people, you're not going anywhere, just accept that you're just not going to be a college graduate or even go to college. Meanwhile, my cousin Lamont had a full ride to Stanford on a track scholarship. He was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. And so proved him wrong. But it's interesting with that mentality. There's definitely ways to inspire the youth to be aware of what's going on. My cousin Kamaria, who's my age, had her daughter be on Amari's Converge Media show. My cousin Kamaria's young daughter, who's about 13, got to be like on the live stream and talk about her opinions about why she's protesting out there. And I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty impressed for a 13-year-old to be well spoken on a live impromptu like live stream for like 5 minutes. It's crazy.
I knew nothing.
Yeah.
I still don't know much.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I understand the mentality of protecting the youth and people you love to not be put into harm's way. I've been telling people who I know who have kids are going out and protesting like, yo, don't roll the dice too hard. Like, you say what you need to say and then bounce. And some people are like, no, this is a movement. Word. I'm like, you don't want orphan kids. How about that?
No,
and that's not
very
me trying.
true.
That's not me trying to dismay them and disgruntle them. It's me to reality check them because you don't want people to be too radicalized to the point where they kind of disregard everything about them and almost become martyrs themselves. I mean, I called out
totally.
Goon on his live stream like, yo, you can't roll the dice too hard. Like, do what you gotta do and then roll out.
Oh my god, his freaking Goon's live stream had like 30 people going, go home, what are you doing there? And he was just like, and
he kept pushing it.
It was pretty short.
But like, I think at the end of it, you made the right call. You knew when to really let the cards go and just run.
Sure.
Some people don't do that.
Also, AV, same question though. Out of the companies in gaming that you support, have you witnessed anything? People speaking out, people being active?
I will say a corporate entity that I may or may not work for has spoken out about losing customers who don't support Black Lives Matter. Jeff Bezos recently came out and in a statement where he got flacked with like a racial email or like an email basically I wouldn't say disproving, but basically being very angry about Amazon being associated with Black Lives Matter and like doing what they can do with the marketing, letting the stuff out. I can only tell you about all the corporate emails I've like seen a lot. Like I took the week off last week, and the week where everything kicked off for Revolution. I come back and like had VPs and SVPs and even Jeff like talking about stuff. But Jeff basically publicly announced like Black Lives Matter is a movement that we all should get behind, and I will say that was a very commendable thing because right now he's seen as the Lex Luthor of Seattle. But
word, he kind of looks like him too.
Kind of looks like him, but I will say.
So sometimes okay, but you shouldn't trust him.
Yeah, you keep him from a distance, but sometimes even the people you consider criminals and war, just horrible people, they do have a sense of right and wrong, whether that be a media ploy or an actual legitimate like idea of siding with what is to be perceived as right as the majority.
Well, granted, it is still a smart business move, regardless. Because even if you lose the people that say, oh, well, I don't support you if you don't support Black Lives Matter, it's like, all right, dude, you can go and take your fucking cousin with you. Like, I don't care. I still make as much more, or I still make as much, if not more money for now saying Black Lives Matter and we should all be a part of it. Like, I get it. Like corporations, especially people like Jeff Bezos, like they want to look good, but they in the end, like, they're saying these things because they have an underlying agenda to it, and that's profiting. So, I mean, granted, I still accept it. I still accept the help, and I still accept the fact that, you know, he wants to be a part of the movement in that way. But like, I know why you said that, bro. Like, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the NFL backtracking the kneeling protest that Colin Kaepernick had, like, coming back out. Like, people who are like, hey, Kaepernick, you can't do that shit. This is America. Get the fuck up and stop taking a knee during the American Pledge of Allegiance or American anthem.
Yeah.
And
It's
essentially,
it's progress, though. It is progress
because the first step of progress is out of ignorance becomes acknowledgement. Acknowledgement comes an understanding, and understanding comes an acceptance.
Totally.
But I know video game stuff. But I mean, even tech related. We're still a tech show.
That's true. But Goon, I gotta make sure that especially locally Seattle, but mostly all the Maniacs listen, know about this Tekken tournament. Please explain and tell us how people were raising money with fighting games.
Okay, so the cool part is I don't know if you guys know well, people that have gone bonus round or know anything about bonus round, there's a crew that fucks with us a lot, and they're called Band. And shout outs to everyone on Band: Juntao, Sleep, Taney, Kay, Queen Charlene. They're all great, fantastic people, and they all play Tekken. They love Tekken. It is like it's their lifestyle, it's their culture. So Taney,
they're amazing.
Yeah, they're all really fucking good at Tekken, like every single one of them.
They're extra. To say the least.
And so Taney decided one day that he wanted to do a charity stream for BLM, primarily targeting BLM fundraising donations to organizations that aren't as donated. And he set it up by having 5 people. He made a team, and Kay, the other girl that's the co-streamer, made another team. So they both had a team with 4 other people and themselves do charity matches. And what you would do is that you would pay, you would donate, and then you would tell them, like, for the upcoming match, like it'll be, for example, Sleep versus Lars, which was another really cool guy in the scene. They would donate money, and you're like, all right, Lars needs to play blank and Sleep needs to play blank, and you're gonna play this, and then you would just put money on who you want them to play as. And some people were like, I remember at one point, Juntao, who was Band's leader, somebody donated like $175 to make him play Akuma, and Juntao doesn't know fucking shit about Akuma, and it just went like that for, I don't know, like 4 hours. And in the end of it all, Band they raised like $1,900 in just charity streaming alone for the BLM movement, and I think that was absolutely insane. I know Kay got really emotional and cried on stream because she didn't expect so many people to donate, and I was really shocked too. And I was really happy, and like I'm really proud of the community that came together to do that. And then the very next day, they did the same thing, but they did it for Smash Brothers, and they raised like $1,600 from that too. So all in all, they raised like under almost $4,000 worth of just fucking charity money, and I think that's insane.
And that's locally. That is locally.
That is locally. So
the sponsors for Justin Wong, I forget which fundraiser he had. I remember the end result was $5,000, and I remember thinking at first, that's a crazy amount of money. And then you told me what a local Tekken tournament did by itself, doing 1,900, and I was like, Seattle Tekken goes so hard.
Yeah, it was.
So
I mean, it wasn't just Seattle Tekken too. It was Seattle, Olympia, and Portland. So there was people donating from all 3 of these cities. Yeah, it was Northwest Tekken.
But if you think about it through metrics, that reach should be way less, like exponentially less than what Justin Wong could bring in, right? And the fact that it was pretty much in line with what he was doing is crazy.
And I think they had like a combined 75 viewers watching them on Twitch, which, you know, like isn't incredibly large, but for them to get like 75 people watching and then almost $2,000 in donations, like that's fucking crazy. That's literally insane.
Freaking great.
It's not bad.
Props.
Most people only get like 5 to
because
10.
What was the
What was the charity they were raising for?
It was for a few charities actually. I'll pull it up. Let me pull the tweet up here from Taney, who organized it. He said he was donating to. Where is your tweet?
No, take your time, because I'm gonna just spit out a little. Oh, go ahead.
So it was to Northwest Bail Funds and then the BLMGN. That's what they were donating to.
People gotta get out of jail, baby.
Yeah, gotta get out of jail.
Yeah. And so that's on a local scale, and hopefully I could get Sagebell and VonShady to chime in on this. Sony really put the money where their mouth is on this one, and they are delaying major releases and even their newest console information. Like
Sony deadass was like, y'all gonna keep being racist? You don't get any PS5s this year. That's literally what they said.
No one like
that's how you hold people captive.
So crazy. Yeah. They are absolutely doing it right. They freaking.
I mean, they could also be using this as an excuse because COVID has slowed down a lot of production for some people. So being like, y'all racist, we're gonna hold you back is really them being like, man, COVID really slowed us the fuck up. Crad, we got an excuse.
That's actually a really good practice.
Facade. It's a great facade.
It's a really good practice, but Call of Duty hasn't said that. I keep bringing out that
Call of Duty
Motor Company hasn't said anything.
No, Call of Duty actually did a Black Lives Matter thing. So on the latest update, when you had to load the game, you actually had to sit through a Black Lives Matter role for a little bit. Let me tell you, Trumpies did not like that shit.
Because a lot of Trumpers are definitely playing COD. So
definitely
like,
COD.
What is this leftist propaganda doing in my video game?
The colors.
Perfect thing that I got to bring up now, because some people that I wouldn't figure were about the cause are coming out of the woodworks and surprising the shit out of everybody. And this is not video games or comic books, but it's music and actors. But it's a band that I thought was Red State Military Wife 1000%, and they're called Avenged Sevenfold. And their lead singer came out with an interview and totally put their reputation on the line, and probably lost a lot of pro, racist and cop killer fans from his statement. And he apologized for their Confederate flag imagery. They said that they learned a lot now that they're parents and they're older and they're smarter. And it made me completely rethink about, that's the whole point of this, You can't condemn people for something they said 20 years ago, hashtag James Gunn. Like, as long as people are learning and better than they were and making the world a better place, that's the goal. And if people are learning and becoming better because of this, that's a good thing. And them coming out and speaking out against that is a step in the right direction, I think. And I'm probably going to go listen to them a little bit tonight, which is kind of weird. But
I mean, you could do the opposite and listen to Trap Headstrong for 8 hours.
Those guys love Trump.
They love him.
Oh my god. Jesus. They just keep digging their hole bigger and bigger.
I'm sure AV knows who this guy is, but if anyone's familiar with the band called Attila, their main screamer, his name is Franz, that's his nickname that he goes by. He trolled the lead singer of Trapped and started calling him Mr. Trapped. So that's how I've been referencing the main singer of Trapped this entire time, is I call him Mr. Trapped.
I mean, he thinks he is trapped.
Yeah.
He is the band. He doesn't need anyone else. He'll take on anyone.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm very sorry for offending you, Mr. Trapped.
Yeah. So,
and they're bad. They're not good.
No.
Just because we're a video game centric podcast, we still like commenting on the other avenues of media. I think it's all relevant regardless.
Well, did you see I'm trying to make this quick as possible. Did you see that Kanye West went full Itachi on all of us?
No.
Oh, that blew my freaking mind. Okay, please, Goon, you got to give the full story to the maniacs, because this is nuts. And you say Itachi, but I'm gonna be a little Tite Kubo stan and say this is the Ichimaru Gin timeline.
You want to say Gin?
If you watch, because of Bleach. That timeline I thought was more accurate, but yeah, it's Itachi. It's the same thing. It's covert. Go ahead.
I'll simplify this in like 2 minutes. So basically, we all know Kanye kind of dove off the deep end, went pro-Trump on us, and said a bunch of really
MAGA
dumb
hats.
shit, like slavery was a choice, and all this stuff to like make people hate him. And then just recently, like a couple of days ago in the news, he like donated over $10 million to George Floyd's family, and then started funding like other BLM movements and speaking out and yeah, and like he helped out with a ton of other cases and donated to so many charities, and people were just coming out of their woodwork and they're like, what is happening? You know, he talked about how like he's no longer associated with like Trump and MAGA, and now it's just like, it's so crazy to see, like, were you just like bamboozling us this entire time to make us think you're the bad guy, and then all of a sudden come nowhere and be like, I saved everyone.
Remember,
Like,
he thinks he's God.
he does think he's God.
Wasn't his intention, right? He did that to get on the good side of the alt-right, to get someone out of prison. Is that correct?
I don't know.
I think he was helping. I think he was helping someone get acquitted, and he went in there, MAGA hat on his head, swallowed his pride, and he was like a wolf in sheep's clothing. And he was like, "Oh no, I'm all for the cause. Also help these people because they're my fans." And afterwards, he's like, "Fuck you, dump Trump. You know, Black Lives Matter." Like full Itachi.
I think he's still kind of a nut job, and I think
he's bonkers.
Like I think even though a lot of people question it, I certainly am questioning his motives for this. I still can't help but accept that he wants to give money to these people, and if you're gonna give George Floyd's family $10 million, I'm pretty sure no one's gonna say no to that. So
he's a bad man.
Yeah, in the end, he's still a jackass. Like, let's be real here. I'm not gonna keep any holds barred on that, but I'm just saying that I think that that's really good of him to do that. This isn't over for him. Like, he's not redeemed by a long shot, but it's a good step. It's
a very good step. Well, we're coming to the end of the show at this point. I was gonna try to do like legit video game news, but for what we're talking about right now, I'm not opposed of just having this just be a focus as a Black Lives Matter movement episode, because guess what? We're all people, but right now it's not an all lives matter movement if not every life is actually valued. So if you're going to come at me with that all lives matter bullshit, then you can go like kick rocks, because
it's like what people said, right?
Yeah.
Like all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter. Yeah. And that's what it is. Like,
that's the damn truth.
That's how it is. If all lives mattered, then we wouldn't be running into the situation right now. So
no,
don't come at me with that weak ass bullshit, because that's what you're gonna get, this fucking jock in your fucking face, because you're gonna get dunked on several times. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is, I appreciate the people who actually stuck around. For some reason, we had a lot of activity in our chat and people chiming in, way more than usual. To be honest,
like with the topic like this, I feel like a lot of people have things that they want to say, and I really encourage people to say and talk and speak their mind, even if they feel like their opinion isn't favored. I still think it'd be good for at least the people with a brain to see another side to the story and absorb it. Granted, like, you don't have to agree with each other on things, but I need people to understand that. And ego plays too much of a big role in this type of bullshit. And I think you guys need to take a step back and think about, the two sides of the story. Granted, like, I'm not saying take the cop side, because ACAP.
You don't trust cops. Rule 1: do not do that.
Rule 1: do not. Like that saying goes, bro. If you have 1,000 cops, if you have 1,000 good cops and 10 bad cops, but the 10 bad cops do so much shit that the good cops don't tell on them or rat them out, then you have 1,010 bad cops. That's just how it is.
The math.
On that note, I got two things to say, and this is one of my closing statements. I know we're trying to wrap up. In the terms of police officers, because I don't know if Goon or Sage knows this, but my dad was a cop for 2 years. He's ex-Navy. He left because he hated it, and it was like a kind of a boys' club. And it's because he's military. He used to talk about it's like they don't operate with any kind of sense of accountability. It's more like if someone does something shitty, it's like a gang. It's like, no, you don't snitch. Like, snitches get stitches, and you pulled a blind eye.
Well, look at what happened to all the cops that came forward, right?
Yeah, and so I have a lot of veteran friends that were in the military, and I have 2 friends that are cops. One I barely talked to, and I talked to them before all this happened about just, COVID in general and how things are operating, and just the way that they handle information and their way of operations is so bananas. And I was talking to our homie Pyong, and he was like, systemically, if accountability was the same as it was as the military, not all of the problems, but a lot would be taken care of. Because as soon as someone did something shitty, they'd be like, I'm calling our CO, our commanding officers, like, right now, you're not getting me in trouble for pulling this bullshit. Like, you don't do that. Like, individuals' actions are everybody's actions, and they're all held accountable. And then the second thing I'm going to say is, the idea of abolishing the police or defunding the police is a really touchy subject. But it can't just be reform, because reform does not work. They've been trying it since Rodney King. And like, you could give them therapy all you want. You can give them training and social workers and stuff to put a Band-Aid on a compound fracture, but it's systemic. Like I said, Camden, New Jersey did something that none of these police departments are even brave enough to try. And AV is going to love this. I know I'm going to get a smile off of him. And they just cut it off at the head and got rid of everybody and said, if you want to work for the police force, you could reapply. And they started from scratch. And everybody got a way stricter application process. And anybody that had a history of violence or complaints, like, was weeded out. And it's incredible the numbers that happened within a year of them doing that. How different that community is. They focus more attention on community outreach and less on buying tanks and bulletproof cars and, just like war machines. And that is a huge step into what I think is a great idea that could be happening. That's my closing statements. I'm at Loud and Brown. Black Lives Matter.
Sage,
and please listen to people.
We didn't get to hear much of you, nor was I, but I don't know. I wasn't out there marching, but Sage, let's give you at least a couple minutes.
Hi, it's me at Sagebell _model on Instagram and Twitter, at Sagebell on... I don't fucking know where I'm talking about anymore. Hi, it's Gay Wrath Month because the queers are out and angry because guess what? The first Pride was run by a black trans woman.
Hey!
So guess what?
First Pride was a riot.
First Pride was a riot.
More ways than one.
Yes. So don your gay apparel and go out there and march with your fellow friends.
Your very nice allies who will fucking fuck shit up with you.
Yes.
That's what's up.
And a lot of riots have lasted for more than 6 months, so be looking at this. It could last that long. Hopefully not, but who really knows? Depends particularly between each county, city, kind of state.
Yeah.
I know that I think at least in my county last election, we voted to something about gun control and police training, but that's not towards Black Lives. That's towards some other things. So hopefully there'll be more changes, but we might have to wait a while because it seems like our state's a lot more resilient.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you, Sage. Goon, I know you got some words.
No, I was pointing at you. You go.
Oh, you want me to go? Okay, you get the last
Sure.
one. Cool. What I will say is you gotta be out there and try to voice an opinion. It doesn't have to be on the front lines getting fucking maced and tear gassed. Just be vocal about where you are right now. Right now, honesty and voicing what kind of frustrations you have is a valid thing. Just make sure you're not fucking rubbing the wrong people the wrong way unless you really want to do that. Then that is your consequence that you're gonna have to take on and be burdened with. 2020, I did not expect doxing to take off like a goddamn rocket, but People are fucking paying the price right now, and I am loving every second of it. I'm not a clean boy by any means, but goddamn, people just think they can just say whatever they want on the internet, and they getting blasted, losing jobs, losing college rides, losing their ability to graduate, losing everything under the sun, and then forced to becoming cam girls or cam boys or doing
It's so satisfying.
It's so good.
It is awesome.
But I come from having a family member be a cop for 8 years. Well, sheriff. But I will tell you, don't trust cops. Lived with one for 8 years. They're shitty ass people. Get rid of them. All of them. Just take them on a boat. Take them off. We're gonna do it again. Everyone gets to be a cop, not 80% white people and 20% minorities. And I'm saying minorities as the whole group.
Yeah.
Equal representation as cops. Let me tell you, having a black cop female pull you over and try to give you hood shit, it's fucking hilarious. But they won't take shit either.
Did I catch your ass speeding?
Yeah.
I'll be like,
I will
no,
say
ma'am.
is what I want is fair representation of the police force, not a regressed. I couldn't do anything after high school as a bully, so I'm gonna just be a cop now. Don't do that shit. I want a fair representation of everyone. Maybe if we had that, that'd be great. But we also need to hold cops accountable as the same strict and standards as a military soldier. They need to get through a fucking harsher sentence of being in a court system where they are held to the highest caliber of standards and not this easy. I get to just do whatever I want because of something immunity. I forgot what it was, but there's a.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, but anyways, that's my rant. Fuck cops right now. Don't trust them. Goon, take the last word.
I know I at times can have some, I wouldn't say extremists, but they're pretty intense views on things. And I just want to clarify really quick for people. When I say there is no such thing as a good cop, and then I immediately say that with there are good people who are cops, but there is no such thing as a good cop. And I realize that you have to let people know that because they think that, oh, you hate the people on the police force, including the people that are behind the uniforms. I really don't care about the person behind the uniform. I care about what the system is doing to the people. And that's what I'm trying to portray to everyone. But everyone's just kind of taking me a little bit too literally, just like how people are kind of taking the ACAB term literally. They're like, oh, so you just hate every cop? No, the whole point of us saying that is that you guys literally are you're a fucking gang. That's what you guys are. If one of your homies does something bad, you cover it up and you pretend that it never happened. And the homies you have that do come out and say something, you either fire their ass or you fucking threaten them, you beat the shit out of them. It's all over the fucking news. Don't act like we don't see it. So I honestly feel that it's justified when people say all cops are bastards, because you guys really are, until things improve and you guys stop hurting innocent people for literally no reason, like throwing a water bottle or a fucking candle. I think it's time for you guys to look at the people and see why they're out on the streets every day for the past week and think to yourself, man, maybe I really shouldn't be brutalizing these people for wanting to not die. That's what I have to say about this. Black Lives Matter. Please support African American businesses. Please support your African American friends. Do not talk over them. Let them speak. It is not about you. So shut the fuck up and listen to the black people out right now on the streets, trying to make a difference and trying to prevent the next generation from suffering the way that they've suffered for literally fucking years.
And with that, we hang up the phone. Thanks, everyone.
Later, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Cool.
Follow, subscribe, get the word out, join the discussion. We love to interact with people and get different opinions, and then make sure you know that you're wrong and know that we're right.
I'm 100% infallible. I am the law. All right. Take it easy, everyone. Goon, thank you for the good send off. That was actually really good. But anyways, Sage, thank you for
Love
the
you
5 minutes
guys.
that we kind of gave you. Anyways, have a good night, everyone.